Hello, and welcome to Two Pews in a Pod. Join us as we explore faith in a modern world at Evangelical Lutheran Church in Frederick, Maryland. Now, here is your host, Pastor Paul Baglios.
I'm Paul Baglios, and happy to welcome you to this episode of Two Pews in a Pod, the podcast of Evangelical Lutheran Church here in Frederick, Maryland. I am joined for this episode by Tom Dorworth to my right and Craig Burkholz to Tom's right. Both of them are regular participants in our Wednesday work crew here at Evangelical Lutheran Church. And this is the first of what we are thinking of as hopefully 4 episodes in a series under the title, The Joy of Community in Service. And we want to talk with Tom and Craig about some of their happier experiences working with others of the Wednesday work crew. But before we go into that, perhaps each of you can talk a bit about what is the work? What is the Wednesday work crew and what do they do?
We do all kinds of tasks around the church. They can be from some just changing light bulbs to sanding down and painting a room, doing some rough carpentry work, doing some finished carpentry work, moving tables, moving chairs. We've been up on the roof, painting some of the galvanized metal on the roof. Tasks like that, things that need to be done, and you can't find a contractor to come in immediately to stop what he's doing and come in immediately and take care of something. We have some very talented people on the group, tradesmen, and so we definitely rely on their expertise to do the more involved tasks that are required. We have a set agenda every Wednesday. Right now, Bob Jacobs does that agenda. In the past, Lou Falconer, who passed away several years ago, would do a lot of those agenda type tasks. Lou himself was an electrician, so we were very, very fortunate to have him on the group.
Yeah, as Tom said, every week we get a list of something like 8 to 12 items that need to be taken care of within the church. And it varies every week. It could be just sweeping the front sidewalk to running, for the last couple of weeks, we've been running internet cable, to crawling through the attics and basements. And like this morning was plastering.
What were you plastering?
The holes we had to make for the internet cables.
Okay.
So it's a wide variety of things. That's one of the things that's enjoyable is it's different every week.
Yeah. Well, and some of the work that the crew does would be seen by anybody who comes to Evangelical Lutheran Church for worship. I'm thinking, for example, of the life-size nativity creche that is set up in the sanctuary beginning in Advent, and the Easter garden with its empty tomb that will be there for Easter. When people come to worship and see those beautiful things, they are seeing the work of the Wednesday crew. A lot of it is not seen. People will not see the internet cables that you've been running in attics and in basements. I know some of the work that you take on is pretty large. Recently, you expanded the storage closet that serves as the main pantry for our backpack ministry in the Traver Center, building a wall out to double the size of that storage closet.
Other things is we had to replace all the emergency lighting in the sanctuary. So all those were replaced this past summer.
Who else participates in this work with you? Tell us some of the others who are regularly involved.
Well, the old crew that's still with us, Joel Fowler, Bob Rosato, Phil Lindenstruth, Gordon Cecil, as I mentioned, Bob Jacobs. Paula Larson has joined us. She's very talented, has a lot of skills that she brings to the table. And then the newer members, Bob Gibson, Craig, Chris has just recently joined.
Yeah, Chris Perry just joined us.
Oh. Well, and before we started recording, Tom and Craig were talking about, Tom, do I remember right? You said you've been part of this for about 10 years?
10 plus years, yes.
10 plus years, and Craig has been part of this for about a year and a half.
Correct.
And this morning, this happens to be a Wednesday that we are recording this episode, and this morning, when I got to campus, I greeted those of the Wednesday work crew who were receiving their assignments and saw that there was another person with you for the first time. One of the happy things that I've seen about the Wednesday crew is that it tends to attract and satisfy a lot of people, which is the point of this series. Not so much to talk about the work that different teams of people do here at Evangelical Lutheran Church, but the experience of enjoyment and satisfaction in sharing that work with one another. What do you like about working with the crew? You've talked, Craig, about you enjoy the fact that every week is different. The task list or the project list can vary week by week by week. But besides the work, what do you like about working with the others?
Well, I find the different skill sets that everybody brings. With Joel, with his electrical work, he was an electrician in the past, so you're learning from him. Tom and his painting and things like that. Each of those guys brings something different, and I've always enjoyed learning from those people. So expanding my knowledge is very good.
So in a sense, it's like a tutorial each week.
In a lot of cases, yes.
A workshop in different... I hadn't thought about that, but that would seem satisfying.
I definitely agree with that. It is an area that we can pick up from each other's skills. But I also think that I 100% agree with what Craig said, but I also think that we all have a shared interest in doing this kind of work. I've always liked to work hard. Always liked to get my hands dirty and just basically get dirty in general. And this is a wonderful place to do that at. If you don't believe me, I'd be glad to take you for a tour underneath the church and crawl through all the little tunnels that are all through the church. Marie
has been down there.
Yeah.
Marie, our engineer for this podcast.
Not for people that are claustrophobic, for sure. But yes, I've dirtied several sets of clothes.
I've had occasion to be in the space between the sanctuary ceiling and the sanctuary roof, and have climbed in the spires. I've not yet, although Marie has invited me many, many times to go under the floor of the sanctuary.
Just say no.
And you mentioned, Craig, that talking about skill sets, Tom's skill as a painter. And I'll say to viewers or listeners to this podcast, since we have started this podcast at Evangelical Lutheran Church, we have been using the pastor's office as a temporary recording studio, but we have the plan and the intention to move into a larger space that is exactly below this office in the Hahn building. And Tom has dedicated hours over many days and many weeks repairing walls and painting the room downstairs so that when we set it up for use as the podcast studio, it will have a fresh face on it. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So I had mentioned to you before we started recording, I'm guessing there are some, but it would probably be of interest to those watching or listening. Share a humorous story. if you can recall one. We'll do a shout out to Phil Lindenstruth because this might come at his expense.
It will be at his expense. Hey, Phil, if you're watching. So one of them does involve Phil, and Phil was working with Lou Falconer, who was an electrician, and they thought they had the electricity turned off, and Phil told, not Phil, but Lou told Phil to go ahead and connect the wires together. And Phil got a bit of a surprise. The next thing you know, his hair standing straight up. And as the story goes, his IQ actually went up to 15 points. And it was high anyway, Phil. So I'm not, very high IQ. So he got a life renewal experience. And we've laughed about that. That comes up quite a bit when Phil's on site. And the other story that I could think of was Bob Rosello. And of course, this wasn't funny at the time, but Bob and I were actually cleaning up right above us. And Bob found what he thought was a dead bat on the floor. And it turned out it wasn't dead, it was dormant. It hadn't left with its buddies when they flew south. And when the weather gets really cold, I guess they go into a dormancy state. But
do bats fly south?
They leave cold areas or they get into an area where... bats are protected, by the way, so you are not allowed to harm a bat in any way. So we both thought the bat was expired laying on the floor. We even pushed it with the broom and no response. So we swept it up. And when Bob went to stuff it in the trash can, he got bit.
Oh, no. Did he have to get rabies treatments?
Yes, because unfortunately, he had left it in the trash. And when he came back to retrieve the bat to have it tested for rabies, the trash was gone. So he had to go through the whole rigmarole. I think he had to get some gamma globulin and then go through a couple of rabies injections. So that wasn't the funny part, but the funny part came later when the Batman jokes came one after the other. I think his family bought him a Batman shirt.
I had not heard that story. But as all of you are now learning, if you haven't known these stories either, be part of the Wednesday work crew. You can be shocked electrically. You can be bitten by a dormant bat. All kinds of mishaps can befall you.
Yes.
Hammer your thumbs.
Often, as I say, and this morning was one of those times, if I come to campus at a time on a Wednesday morning when the Wednesday work crew is here, especially if it's early, I think you always start in the Traver Center, gather around the table to go over the day's list of projects and tasks.
That is one point I want to bring up is I didn't want to join the group because in the bulletin it says they meet at 7:30 in the morning. I didn't want to meet at 7:30. But in reality, it's anywhere between 8 and 8:30 when everybody comes. So it's a reasonable time.
Well, as I say often, if I come in and see that many are already here in Traver, I like to go in and greet and thank people for what they're doing. And I'm always warmed and gladdened by the evident cheer and delight that I can see that the participants in this particular service ministry have in one another. And maybe you can expand upon that a little bit. In some ways, each of you has already addressed this. But how does your participation with the Wednesday work crew contribute to your happiness and your satisfaction in life?
I find when I retired, I got kind of bored. And I've always enjoyed doing DIY projects for myself. And when I finally got enough courage to join, I realized how the friendship that you develop here is important. When I came here, I didn't know anybody who had joined the church, and now you walk through and you can find members, and they acknowledge you, which is important to me.
Well, which makes the very important point, Craig, that the best way to start to get to know people in the congregation, and this is true of any community or organization, is find a way to get involved. You make friends and you meet people as you find ways to engage. How did you start into the work crew? Were you invited?
I asked Joel one Sunday afternoon, what was involved. And once I said that, he was all over it, to get me to come in and see what it was.
Good on Joel.
Right. The thing is, I think what we really need is, even though I'm retired, I'm the baby of the group.
Yeah.
So looking for people that can actually do the physical labor.
Mm-hmm. Take the electric shocks, take the back bites. Yep.
I don't want to do that.
How did you get involved in this 10 plus years ago?
I knew about the group from Lou Falconer. At the time I had gotten out of the service, I was working at National Institutes of Health where Lou was working, and he told me about the group, and I said, oh, that's awesome. I'd love to come and help, because I love to do that stuff. And again, we all have a shared interest in doing this kind of stuff. And I think we all have an appreciation for what each other is doing. And I'm not trying to say that you have to have highly developed skills to be able to be on this committee, because we're certainly willing to work with anybody that would like to join us. And, you know, we're all very low. Well, I would say not pretty. We're very low-key guys. Mm-hmm. We're all retired. We're not, rushing to get things done. So it's a fairly laid-back environment. But there's also the feeling that we're actually working for the big guy upstairs, and we're also helping the church to save some money. I mean, can you imagine if you had to hire people to go around? Oh, we got a light bulb out and nobody can reach it, or the chandelier, 10 light bulbs out in the chandelier in the church itself. We have to hire somebody to go up there now and lower the chandelier, change the light bulbs. And in some cases, you would be hiring an electrician to do that, because it's not as simple as what it sounds, because you definitely have to have the right bulb, et cetera, et cetera. So it's that part is something that I think we all enjoy.
Well, and I can say absolutely, the work that you do is an enormous gift to this congregation, to its life, and all of its ministries. We often say in church that stewardship, which is part of the vocation of every Christian, involves not just treasury, not just financial stewardship, but a stewardship of time and talent. And the Wednesday work crew here at Evangelical Lutheran Church is a good example of wonderful, generous stewards of their time and of their talent. And in fact, as I mentioned a few moments ago, we are recording this episode on a Wednesday afternoon. Both Craig and Tom were already here at church. They had come this morning to do this day's work with the Wednesday crew and agreed to return this afternoon for this conversation, this podcast episode. I would say on their behalf and on behalf of all who are part of it, if any of you watching or hearing this episode are intrigued by what you've heard and would like to learn more about the Wednesday crew, by all means, you can simply show up. As Craig said, it's about 8 or 8:30 once the crew has gathered and begins to take a look at their morning's work. When do you usually wrap up?
Oh,
it can vary from 11 o'clock to typically noonish. But sometimes we've worked well into the afternoon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. True.
Again, anyone hearing about this, if you have a curiosity to learn more, maybe to get involved, talk to somebody. You can always talk to me. I can put you in touch with members of the work crew. As I say, these two brothers in Christ with me are Tom Dorworth and Craig Burkholtz. And what you said about the lights, I'll conclude this with this comment. Any of you who have ever been to worship at Evangelical Lutheran Church, if you look up at the chandeliers, have you ever wondered, how do those light bulbs get changed? Well, those chandeliers are on pulleys, large pulleys that are operated in the space between the ceiling and the roof of the sanctuary. People can go up, lower those chandeliers down so that they can be reached easily from the floor level, light bulbs changed. I was fascinated to learn how that worked when I had first started to serve here at Evangelical Lutheran Church. And there are many fascinating things that I've learned just paying a bit of attention to our Wednesday work crew. Thank you for everything that you do for this congregation. Thank you for taking part in this conversation. And thank you to all of you for listening to what I hope will be the first of 4 episodes in this series, The Joy of Community in Service. Again, I'm Paul Baglios.
Tom Dorworth.
Craig Burkholtz.
Bye for now.
This has been Two Pews in a Pod, a podcast hosted by the pastor of Evangelical Lutheran Church in Frederick, Maryland. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.